I think maybe order of the presentation may be changed. So if I may invite, I think the Jason Apanu, a Climate Change and Development Authority, Papua New Guinea. So Jason, if you are ready to speak, could you please start your presentations?
Hello, MC, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes, I can hear you.
All right, great, thank
Okay,
you.
go ahead.
So firstly, I would like to apologize. I didn't really prepare a presentation or anything. Basically because we just sort of nothing has been formalized yet from PNG. So I'm just gonna share our experience or share what our plans is moving forward in terms of the authorization. So for Papua New Guinea, we recently signed a memorandum of cooperation with the Japanese government and also a MOU with the Singapore government. And that was in COP last year, COP 27 in Sharm el-Sheikh. So we're currently now at the stage of sort of negotiating the implementation agreement with these two governments. And I believe that also includes the authorization guidance. So basically we're still at the sort of initial stage and currently. So in terms of our plans now in Papua New Guinea, so basically just recently we've been having a lot of interest coming in terms of the carbon markets, both the voluntary and like the compliance, especially the voluntary. So our government has sort of instructed us to develop a policy framework. So they've instructed the lead agency, which is Climate Change Development Authority. So basically to develop the regulatory framework to guide the all carbon market activities in the country. So that's inclusive of both the voluntary market and then compliance under the Article 6. So we've been sort of tasked to do that, and that's what we're currently doing at this stage. So I think during this whole development of the policy framework, one sort of challenge that we face is trying to really understand the different market requirements and trying to capture that into our domestic policy, domestic framework. That's still being a huge challenge for us, I would say. And also, as much as possible, want to capture the authorization process within the policy framework. So that's sort of I would say challenge and an issue for us at this stage. And another issue when we're sort of still trying to develop this whole policy framework, carbon markets sort of cross-cut into other sectors. Now in Papua New Guinea, we already have existing laws and requirements within these sectors. So basically, if a developer wants to come, they have to meet those laws before they come to and get some sort of permitting or authorization from the government, from to participate in the market, I would say. So as much as possible, that's another issue, trying to avoid duplication of the whole process or duplication of requirements. So once they met the requirements of the sector agency, they come show us. It's sort of how we see it happening when in terms of implementation. So that's sort of been an issue. So we don't duplicate the whole process of the sector agencies. Like for instance, in the electricity sector, they have the certain requirements that they have to meet, and then before that you come and then get some authorization to participate in Article 6. That's an issue. So, and I think one other challenge from our end is when it comes to the actual implementation. That's what we see going forward, is to do with the actual composition of the body that's going to give authorization. So from us, we really sort of see this as happening from the heads of agencies. That's going to be like part of the joint committee or something. But then again, because this whole issue is more technical, I mean, whether they really understand the technical nature of this before giving the authorization is another issue. So probably, I mean, we're still at this stage yet, so probably what we see is maybe having some sort of a joint, a subcommittee. So that's same agencies that are going to be part of the the joint committee, but more this subcommittee is more people with technical know-how of the whole Article 6 arrangement and all that. So at least they give the technical advice to the members of the joint committee to give the final authorization. So that's sort of how we see it happening in our country. Yeah, I think that's sort of it from my end. I apologize, I didn't have anything to share in terms of presentations, but I'm happy to sort of learn more from other countries, and then so that we can start fixing our regulatory framework or policy framework in terms of authorization. Thank you very much again for giving me the time to present. Back to you, MC.
Thank you very much, sharing for your current situations. And I think the framework and also regulatory framework and in the country is very much important. And I think that on 15th March, we also had a presentation from the Ghana and also Switzerland, as well as the Sweden, and also we had a presentation from the Jordan. And I think the most of the countries touch upon the necessity of the policy framework in the country. And I think your current challenges, I think other countries also have same issues in the futures. So thank you very much for sharing your current situations. And I think Christina's, are you here?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, I'm here. Sorry for the problems.
Okay, so if
that
you
I
are
had
ready
with
to
Zoom.
make a presentation, please go ahead, and we will project your presentations.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
to
you.
have a stable connections. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Cristina Figueroa, professional for the Mitigation and Transparency Department in the Climate Change Division, Ministry of Environment. And in this presentation, I will give you a brief context of our current regulations related to Article 6, the basis for the regulation of Article 6 in Chile. So next slide, please. In Chile, since last year, we have had the Climate Change Framework Law that establishes a national goal to lead the carbon neutrality, as well as being a framework for the creation of instruments, systems, regulations that allow us to achieve the goals set out in our international commitments. Next, please. So the main instruments linked with Article 6 under this law are the NDC, which states a national mitigation goal and means of implementation, also integration, the long-term strategy guidelines, and moreover recognize Article 6 as a mechanism that can enable the implementation of mitigation actions, promoting the private sector participation. Then we have the long-term strategy that is in line with the NDC and set sectoral budgets. And with these sectoral budgets, now are the mitigation sectoral plans, where the sectoral authorities define the mitigation measures needed to comply with the sectoral budget and finally with our NDC. So this is the line where we relate the NDC, our long-term strategy, and our mitigation sectoral plans. And next, please. On the other hand, the law has economic instruments in the Article 15 and 30 that are about offsets. The Ministry of Environment is in charge of developing the regulation for emission offsets. The first one is the compensation related to the emission standards. Then we have the regulation for Article 6, and then the creation of the National Voluntary Certification. It's important to take into account that we also have the green tax, which is more advanced than the other instrument and is now establishing the compensation system. Next, please. So with that in mind, I will start speaking with our Article 6 Interministerial Task Force. In order to comply with our NDC, the Ministry of Energy organized the Interministerial Task Force on Article 6 in 2020. This roundtable is made up of the Ministry of Energy, Foreign Affairs, Environment, Finance, and Agriculture. And in 2020, this roundtable produced the document Basic Guidelines for the National Policy on Use of Article 6. And in 2021, the input for the national article, in 2022, sorry, the input for the National Article 6 policy. In this later document, we define relevant details like the objectives of the use of Article 6 in Chile, the activity requirements, the linkage with other regulatory instruments, the sectoral scope, the principles, and the governance. And today, for example, also the task force of Article 6 will be led by the Ministry of Environment. So we changed from the Ministry of Energy to the Ministry of Environment because of the new climate change law. And this task force will be the body in charge of taking relevant decisions on Article 6 until the respective committee has been formed. And for example, things like the public-private roundtable will be our next activity. And in parallel, our ministry is establishing the regulation for Article 6. Next slide. So here, more related with authorization, we have our governance. We can see how the governance was defined in this document by the task force in case of the activity that implies a corresponding adjustment, which means that the Article 6 committee will decide if of course, approve or authorize the activity, and of course is in charge of the authorization of the cooperative approach. And then will be in charge of the authorization of ITMOS. We also have other roles like auditory and advisory in this governance, but why this type of governance? For us, the importance of the committee is that if a corresponding adjustment exists and the sectoral budget will be involved, so it's important for that sectors to be included in the decisions. Next slide, please. So in parallel, we have our Chilean carbon market in line with the input document of the Article 6 national policy. So I'm going to explain the Chilean market, and the key criteria that will be for us is additionality, which is different for national than international. In Chile, we have the domestic market that is currently, we have 3 instruments: green tax, emission standards, and the national voluntary market, for which then additionality for these instruments has already been defined to comply with the NDC. However, in the international case, in the case of a corresponding adjustment, we addition to comply with additionality the following extra criteria that should be met. For example, when a measure is advanced, if a measure involves innovation of technology and capacity building, or if it's completely additional to our NDC or finally our mitigation measures established in our mitigation sectorial plans. Next, please. So as I explained, green tax is more, I will give you a brief idea about the possible flow of authorization of ITMOS, and it's based on the green tax offsetting system that it's more advanced. So we start with the request of authorization of an entity with that in place, and if it's set, we ask the criterion. If it's yes, we notify that activity is approved or authorized. In this case, we are thinking about a pre-authorized step. And then we have the stage of monitoring. and validation, reporting, verification. That start with the verification approved by our superintendency. The Ministry of Environment will authorize the use of ITMO and start all the issue process. Of course, this is general overview without going into details of how we intend to proceed, but it's important to know that for us and ITMO to be real, we consider that authorization for the use of ITMO must be given after verification. And that for market confidence, we are thinking about the pre-authorization of the activity, just to get confidence for the market before giving the actually authorization of use of the ITMO. This is because it also ensures that the project has complied with environmental regulation and the commitments. And that is all that I could explain for now. That is why we are thinking about it. And that's all from our side in Chile. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina, for your presentation. And I'm very much interested in your presentation, especially for Article 6. I think the interministerial task force, and we received several questions how we should establish the internal task force, and that's very helpful for I think today's participants. So thank you very much, Christina, for your presentation.
Thanks to you.
Yeah, okay. So later, we will take several questions from the audience. And I see the question from the UAE, and we are planning to post the video and also presentations if we confirm the I think the with all the speaker, and also we are planning to share our recorded video through the some link or some tools. So please wait, maybe once we are ready in the futures. So the third presenter is Takayuki Shigematsu from the Ministry of the Environment Japan. So he will also share the Japan's experiences on the authorization. So Takayuki-san, over to you.
Good morning, Takahashi-san, for introduction. I'm Takayuki Shigematsu from Ministry of Environment Japan, working as a member of the Article 6 and the Joint Cooperating Mechanism implementation. So today I'd like to introduce Japan's current situation on the process of authorization under the Article 6. So please go on to the second slide. Yes, as many of you are already aware of, the JCM, the Joint Cooperating Mechanism, is a bilateral mechanism to appropriately allocate the credits generated by the mitigation action in the partner countries in accordance with the guidance for the cooperative approach stipulated in Article 6.2 to avoid double counting through corresponding adjustment and contribute to the national determined contribution in both countries, which means of Japan and the partner countries. Since its launch in 2013, 10 years ago, Japan has signed with 25 partner countries around the world and implemented over 230 projects. So next slide, please. Before moving on to the discussion of the authorization process, I would like to briefly explain the project process under the JCM. The Joint Committee is composed of the representatives from Japan and partner countries, the government official, and is responsible for approving the proposed methodology, registering the project, notifying the governments of the amount of the credit. However, the process does not have an authorization stipulated in the guidance under Article 6.2. So therefore, a separate meeting body with a clear rationale for the authorization needs to be established. So this is the background of establishing the dedicated authorization body for the JCM. So next slide, please. As Japan's response, a new JCM Promotion and Utilization Council, which consists of 5 relevant ministries, were established in January 2022. And the council has a basis for the establishment in the plan for global warming countermeasures decided by the Japanese cabinet in October 2021. The council is composed of the director in charge of the JCM in relevant ministries, including Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan, and etc. And is designed to promote the implementation of JCM in a practical manner. So as you can see in the slide, the duty of the council are shown on the slide. First one is approving JCM credit. The second one, determine of the method to apply a corresponding assessment to the JCM credit. The last one is revision of the guidance for the implementing the JCM in Japan. Yeah, so this is the domestic institutional arrangement for the authorization. So we, to implement JCM under the 6.2, so also the partner country needs to make a institutional arrangement or authorization as well. So next slide, please. The procedure for authorization and corresponding adjustment were put public consultation from February of 2022 and adopted at JCM Promotion and Utilization Council in April. As a result of discussion among the relevant ministries, the Council determined 3 elements of authorization aligned with the guidance of the cooperative approach in the Article 6.2. So the who is going to authorize the credit is JCM Promotion and Utilization Council itself. It is the case of Japan. And yes, we have determined what to authorize under this council, 3 elements. The first one is JCM credit issued in the JCM registry in Japan. And the second one is JCM project, which issued the JCM credit. And the last one is legal entities acquiring those JCM credits. So those are the 3 elements to be processed upon notification from the joint committee, which is determined in accordance with the bilateral documents, rules, and guidance between Japan and the partner country of the JCM. So please go on to the next slide. Yeah, on the last slide, I would like to introduce the information disclosure on authorization. The JCM implementing ministry and agencies are required to promptly disclose the information on the approval of the JCM website, including the name of partner country, the name of JCM project, and the name of legal entity acquiring credit, and identification number and status of authorization. So those information will be uploaded on JCM website, which has been already established to disclose all the relevant documents related to JCM. So at this moment, no JCM credits have been authorized yet, but then the actual operation under this scheme is yet to be implemented. In addition, for JCM that has been implemented before the Article 6 rules were adopted, it is necessary to revise the bilateral rules of implementation and other guidelines for the JCM should be aligned with the Paris Agreement rules and related decisions. So we are now closely discussing with the JCM partner country for revising those documents, should be aligned with Article 6.2. Yes, several countries like Mongolia, we have already discussed with the revision of those guidelines and already developed its own implementation guidelines. So yeah, that is the Japan's effort for authorization. So as I have mentioned, that each country has its own institutional arrangement for this authorization and still in progress with the different partner countries. So we will be grateful if you could provide with us a reference to the Japan's JCM-based experience. Thank you so much for your listening. So back to you, Takashi-san.